Broadcasting live from California, get ready for an hour of pure, unapologetic conservative talk radio. Liberals beware, because this is the Wise Conservative Show.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the Wise Conservative Show. I'm your host, Connor Wise. Now, quite a bit actually happened in regards to Donald Trump's administration this past week. Of course, I'm sure all of you have heard National Security Advisor Michael Flynn has resigned, and this was huge news. I got about 9 different notifications on the matter, and this was, according to a lot of people, a huge issue, and that is, of course, why Flynn decided to resign or was forced to resign by the administration. But it's coming out that President Trump was reportedly told 6 days into his presidency that Michael Flynn misled the vice president about his phone calls with Russia, but then Donald Trump didn't tell Vice President Michael Pence. After learning about the phone calls, he kept Vice President Michael Pence in the dark about his conversations with Russian Ambassador Sergei Kislyak. The Associated Press reported that Tuesday. They cited White House officials for this matter. Pence and other officials defended Flynn in the weeks leading up to this resignation because they didn't know what was actually going on. Here's a quotation from Pence in an interview. They did not discuss anything having to do with the United States' decision to expel diplomats or impose censure against Russia. Mark Lauder, a Pence spokesman, said the vice president only became aware that he had received incomplete information from Flynn after the first Washington Post report, which was released last Thursday. Pence then learned about the Justice Department warnings to the White House around the same time. Now, Pence and White House Chief of Staff Reince Priebus played an integral role in Flynn's resignation, according to sources who talked to the news agencies. And the White House did say earlier Tuesday that Flynn's downfall wasn't because he discussed the sanctions against Russia, which is a potential violation of rarely enforced law, but it was more the fact that he denied it for weeks and misled Pence and other senior Trump aides about the nature of his conversations. Now, White House officials said that they conducted a thorough review of Flynn's interactions, including transcripts of calls that were secretly recorded by U.S. intelligence officials, and they did find nothing illegal. Pence is said to have been angry and deeply frustrated over this, of course, because he was left in the dark. White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer said this: "The evolving and eroding level of trust as a result of this situation and a series of other questionable incidents is what led the president to ask General Flynn for his resignation." Spicer said that other questionable incidents had actually contributed to this, and this is something that a lot of people are getting hung up on. They don't really know what exactly it means, but according to another insider on this matter, those incidences included Flynn seeking a security clearance for his son during the actual transition time. Flynn, in an interview on Monday, said that there were no lines crossed in his conversations with the Russian ambassador, and that's basically all of this story. I'm sure all of you have heard those details many times. It's been big news. And of course, on Monday night, Flynn did resign. But this entire situation is kind of out of hand. Flynn didn't break any laws, while his information wasn't necessarily complete that he told Mike Pence or other senior aides. He didn't break any laws, and he didn't discuss the sanctions with Kislyak, even though that's what a lot of the left are saying that he did. I do not believe that General Flynn actually should have resigned over this matter. It's merely him trying to make the transition smoother by talking to these ambassadors beforehand over issues that, quite honestly, were very questionable. I mean, this was over the Russian diplomats being expelled that he was actually talking to Kislyak. And we all know that Obama doing that was very questionable. This wasn't Michael Flynn going out on a limb, going rogue, and discussing sanctions with the Russian government before he was even a senior advisor to a president. That's not what happened. But that's what the left would like you to think over all of this matter. What he merely did was discuss the very questionable foreign policy that Barack Obama put into place in his final days as president just to make Donald Trump's life a harder time once he took office. And we see just from this that Obama succeeded in that. He succeeded by getting Michael Flynn to hand over his resignation. Michael Flynn said this: "It wasn't about sanctions. It was about the 35 guys who were thrown out. It was basically, look, I know this happened. We'll review everything. I never said anything such as we're going to review sanctions or anything like that." So General Flynn, of course, wasn't actually doing anything illegal. He wasn't actually doing anything that he shouldn't have been doing. And the biggest issue here is just that he didn't tell Mike Pence the whole story. But he didn't necessarily not tell Mike Pence the whole story. Donald Trump had the job to actually tell Mike Pence 9 or however many days, 6 days into his presidency. Donald Trump actually dropped the ball here, and he should have told Mike Pence after those 6 days into his presidency. General Flynn did nothing wrong here, and yet we still see Democrats time after time, such as Nancy Pelosi or Elijah Cummings, both, of course, Democratic representatives. Nancy Pelosi and Elijah Cummings both repeatedly cited tweets from an account to try to sway people away from Mike Flynn. But the problem about these tweets is they were citing tweets from an account that was an imposter of General Flynn. The mix-up arose after the resignation of Michael Flynn, who left the White House on Monday night. And then early Tuesday morning, the account at Gen Mike Flynn seemingly shared the retired lieutenant's thoughts on his ousting. Here's the actual thoughts that this fake account put out there. "While I accept full responsibility for my actions, I feel it is unfair that I have been made the sole scapegoat for what happened. But if a scapegoat is what's needed for this administration to continue to take this great nation forward, I am proud to do my duty." Now, this was in a couple tweets from this account, but already before we even go into the more details in this story, the actual name of this account, not just the handle, but the name is not Michael Flynn. If Pelosi and Cummings had actually looked at the account, they would already know that this wasn't Michael Flynn. They would already know that this is a fake quotation. But during a Tuesday news conference, Pelosi and Cummings used the tweets to support their case for congressional hearings on this whole issue. Madame Leader, just this morning, Flynn tweeted, and this is a quote, "Scapegoat," end of quote, scapegoat. He basically described himself as a scapegoat. Now, that is what Representative Cummings said in the interview. Pelosi, of course from California, added, "I have a tweet I'm going to make. I'm telling my staff right now. It's not scapegoat, it's Stonewall." And that's exactly what the Republicans in Congress are doing. Now, of course, both of these representatives were completely wrong. They didn't have the common sense to just check the account. General Flynn, of course, has a verified account on Twitter. They couldn't even bother themselves to look for the blue check mark to see if this was a verified account. The real General Flynn uses the handle of @GenFlynn, and he hasn't even tweeted from his official account since December, but he appeared to actually be back online on it later Tuesday after this whole fake account issue. Now, both Pelosi and Cummings later did acknowledge their error, but the damage had already been done. But it goes deeper than this. The New York Times had also used the same tweets in its story on Flynn's resignation. The paper then later issued an online correction at the bottom of its report after discovering the error, saying, quote, "Also, because of an editing error, an earlier version quoted 3 posts from an unverified Twitter account purporting to be Mr. Flynn's, responding to the resignation. Now, Twitter users and people across the country immediately blasted these three different people and organizations, and it's obvious because this was an obviously fake account. I mean, it's not Mike Flynn as the actual name for the account. Many people said that the failing of New York Times, Nancy Pelosi, and Representative Cummings issued statements based on 100% fake news. We expect more from our media and politicians. Now, that's what a lot of people are saying, and that's exactly right. We see the left time after time after time lambasting the right for using quote-unquote fake news. We see them saying that Fox News is fake news. We see them saying that any conservative source is fake news. That any source that a Republican or a conservative in general uses is fake. But then we see stuff like this, where the very liberal New York Times, the very liberal Nancy Pelosi, and of course the very liberal Representative Cummings, all three of them used fake news. They are the actual people who are spreading this fake news. We have seen this time after time. It's not the right that is spreading this fake news. I'm sure there are a couple posts that have been misled from the right. I'm sure there's a little bit. But the majority of this fake news that is being spread is actually from the left. From Russia hacking the election to stuff like this. The left continues to spread around these lies while saying that it's not them that's doing it, that it's the right. They continue to say that they don't use fake news, that they are the sole saviors from fake news. But then we see stuff like this. We see stuff like them saying that Russia hacked into the voting polls on the election day. We see continuous lies coming out of the left. And it seems week after week I have another story about representatives or senators from the left that are citing fake news or that are blatantly lying to the American people. And that is just unacceptable. It's unacceptable for the minority leader, Nancy Pelosi, to be spreading lies like this. For any representative, for any senator, for any politician, and especially a news agency such as the New York Times. No one should be spreading the lies such as this. And them later just acknowledging the error. Pelosi and Cummings didn't apologize for spreading this fake news. They just acknowledged that they made a mistake. And their acknowledgement of that isn't very widely known. Their acknowledgement of that didn't get spread as much as this fake news was spread. So they've definitely done damage in terms of lies and general not knowing what's going on in this entire situation. And of course, this whole situation is just strange. We do see that General Flynn, he did talk to the Russian ambassador. He didn't discuss sanctions or anything, so it wasn't illegal. And then, just out of nowhere, this classified information that our security agencies in this country should have been protecting is in the front page of the news. We see this happen time after time within this country, and President Trump just today suggests that the U.S. intelligence community may be illegally leaking this sensitive information to hurt his administration. And this, of course, ends that brief peace with the agencies that he had for a few weeks there. Now, Trump addressed the situation of government leaks today, just earlier in the afternoon, during his joint press conference with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Trump said, "Intelligence papers are being leaked. Things are being leaked. It's a criminal act. And it's been going on for a long time before me, but now it's really going on." He later emphasized that the documents and papers were illegally and he said, quote, "I stress that illegally leaked." Now, even earlier today, Trump issued a whole range of Twitter posts in the wake of a stream of damaging news stories that were based primarily on anonymous government sources that involved information apparently gathered by a nation's spy, our country's spy agencies. The leak culminated in National Security Advisor Michael Flynn's Monday night resignation. Without these leaks, that would never have happened. And of course, this was after the Washington Post first reported that he had discussed sanctions with a Russian official during the transition period, which we now know was wrong, and something that Flynn had told Vice President Pence did not occur. Now, the New York Times then on Tuesday night also published a story alleging vague connections between several Trump associates, many of whom were not actually named in the story, and Russian intelligence agents. Trump tweeted out, quote, "This Russian connection nonsense is merely an attempt to cover up the many mistakes made in Hillary Clinton's losing campaign. Information is being illegally given to the failing New York Times and Washington Post by the intelligence community, questioning whether it's the NSA and FBI, just like Russia." He added, quote, "The real scandal here is that classified information is illegally given out by, quote, intelligence like candy. Very un-American." Now, Trump also took issue with the characterization advanced by some critics that he's been soft on Russia, noting aggressive actions taken by the Kremlin when Obama was actually in office, tweeting out, quote, "Crimea was taken by Russia during the Obama administration. Was Obama too soft on Russia?" And that's exactly right. Obama allowed Russia to take Crimea. He imposed sanctions on them after the fact. The sanctions didn't work. Russia still holds Crimea, and it's essentially a part of Russia now. Obama did nothing about Russia starting to take over Ukraine. Obama was weaker than Trump ever will be on Russia. And that's just a fact. Now, of course, Trump has time after time derided the intelligence community, which he did believe leaked information that led to prior reports about connections between his campaign and the Russian government. Trump also initially refused to say that Russia was responsible for a series of pre-election hacks, though he did eventually concede that the Kremlin was behind it. And of course, Trump has been criticized for his stance in seeking a better relation with President Putin of Russia. Now, of course, Donald Trump, in regards to Russia, is just as Ronald Reagan was in terms of the USSR. He still wants to have diplomacy open, just as Reagan did with Gorbachev, but he still wants to be strong. He wants to negotiate from a position of power, and that's exactly what he's setting himself up to do. In contrast to what President Obama did, where he wouldn't negotiate and he would impose sanctions that didn't work and then throw baby fits when it didn't work, or blame Putin for all of his problems throughout Europe and Asia. Obama did not have a foreign policy, and that is a fact. His foreign policy was a failure, it was weak, and it just led to more damage across the entire world. Trump is in a position where he can better the relationship with Russia if they follow what we want. And that's how it should be. And if Putin does agree to furthering this relationship with America, then we are in a great position. If not, Trump is still in a position where he can go hard on Russia, where he can attack Russia on different issues, where he can impose better sanctions, where he can impose different policies that actually do hurt Russia, instead of policies such as Obama's, which were a complete and utter failure. And we see this unfolding before us time after time throughout every single day of the new presidency. All right, I'm going to take one quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. This is The Wise Conservative Show.
Hi, everybody. Connor Wise here with an exclusive clip from The Wise Conservative Show.
Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. And every time that these universities take up this new social change that they're trying to promote, every time they take that up, they are taking away from that education instead. Because now they're focusing on these social changes instead of learning like they should be.
Ever wanted to learn the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in less than 10 minutes? Are you looking for the truth about the so-called gender wage gap? Well, my friends, I'll let you in on a little secret. Prager University is a source that I use all the time when preparing for my show, the Jason Veely Program. Dennis Prager and his team have put together a remarkable organization that seeks to explain and spread Americanism through the power of the internet. Their short yet extremely informative videos reach more than 100 million people per year, and they want to reach you as well. Go on YouTube and type in Prager University, or go to prageru.com for all of their latest content. That's Prager, the letter U.com. prageru.com.
Have you ever wanted to stand up to your liberal professor? Have you ever wanted to help expand the conservative movement? Well, it sounds like you would be a perfect fit for Youth Revolt. Youth Revolt is a team of dedicated young conservatives fighting liberal indoctrination within our school system. If you're interested in being a part of this team by being a columnist or even hosting your own radio show, go ahead and click the Join Now tab at the top of youthrevolt.org. You'll be asked to answer a few questions, and a Youth Revolt team member will respond to you quickly. Be a part of something bigger than you. Be a part of Youth Revolt. Speak without fear.
My friends, I'm going to be blunt with you. There are a lot of frauds out there today. People who claim to be conservatives and yet, in one way or another, believe that more government is the solution to our problems. That's not what conservatism is about, and even more than that, that's not what our Constitution is about. I'm Jason Veely, a recent college grad who has the guts to say what needs to be said without pulling any punches. On my radio show, you can expect 100% pure conservatism every single weeknight at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time. Join me as we discuss history, liberty, and conservative philosophy in a style that is just as entertaining as it is educational. Who says we can't have fun tearing down the liberal establishment? Tune in to the Jason Veely Program live every weeknight at 7 o'clock on youthrevolt.org. I'll see you out on the battlefield.
Love Trump's hate! Love Trump's hate! Love Trump's hate!
Love trumping hate involves a lot more assault and arson than I expected. The Wise Conservative Show, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Youth Revolt.
Welcome back to the Wise Conservative Show. Once again, I am your host, Connor Wise. Now, keeping the topic on Russia, and I did bring up a couple times previously in the last segment, the Russian hacking of the election, as many people call it. Well, now Senator Ben Cardin, a Democrat from Maryland, is calling for an independent commission to be formed, which is similar to the 9/11 Commission, to investigate Russia's interference in the election. Now, Cardin, who is the ranking member on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, likened the current situation to the period after the 9/11 attacks, arguing that American national security could be vulnerable. Here's a quotation from him. "Russia attacked us. They attacked us in November in trying to compromise our free election system, and there's evidence that they're continuing to try to infiltrate our country." He said the Blue Ribbon Commission should be nonpartisan and have broad powers and would go beyond the current FBI criminal investigation. He continued with, "Russia is trying to bring down our democratic institutions. also adding that the Kremlin could be using similar tactics to undermine elections in Europe. Now, Representative Trey Gowdy, who is a Republican from South Carolina, said earlier on Fox News' show America's Newsroom that the House Intelligence Committee has been investigating Russian meddling in the election for months. He said it's not serious for Democrats to call for public hearings on classified information, adding that they're not more concerned with the security, but more with politics. And that's what we've seen time after time since the election. Now, top House Democrats made similar calls yesterday on Capitol Hill, questioning whether President Donald Trump was aware of Michael Flynn's contact with Russian officials. And multiple times they asked, what did President Trump know and when did he know it? Which we did answer earlier, which 6 days into his administration, he did know about this. And, of course, Donald Trump has denounced those leaks. But what we're seeing here is the left, rather than actually looking at the facts or the details of the report that came out, they're trying to make this very political. They're trying to make this whole situation politically skewed so that Donald Trump looks bad, that he looks like an illegitimate president. You see, each time they say this, they try to make it seem like Russia hacked into the actual voting polls on November 8th. But if you actually look at the report that was put out, all they did was try to introduce news stories that were biased against Hillary Clinton. That's it. That's all that Russia tried to do in this election. And honestly, if you actually look at our nation's own history, we have done much worse in elections throughout the entire world. We have ousted many different leaders time after time. And most of the time that is supported by war hawks on both the left and the right. And what we're seeing here is just Ben Cardin. He's suggesting a commission that is unneeded. The FBI has looked into this matter time after time, and the House Intelligence Committee is still looking at this matter. And after months of investigating it, they haven't come up with anything that Russia has actually hacked into. They haven't come up with anything that Russia has actually influenced throughout this election. Because the fact is that while Russia tried to introduce news stories, that's it. They didn't actually hack anything. They didn't actually skew any voters' mindset. That is just more lies from the left. That is more fake news that the left is perpetrating throughout the entire country. We see the left time after time trying to make Trump seem like an illegitimate president when we all know that he clearly won the electorate. He had over 300 electoral votes. That's not from Russia. Millions upon millions of Americans went out and voted for Donald Trump on November 8th. That's not because of Russia. Donald Trump won because he was the better candidate. Hillary Clinton is the most unelectable candidate known to mankind. She had countless scandals throughout not only her time as a senator, but also her time as Secretary of State. There was no way that Hillary Clinton was going to actually win the election. And the left is continuing to throw baby fits over this. The left is continuing to spread fake news about this, continuing to continue the lies that they have spread since the day after the election. You know, remember the time when the left said that it was impossible to hack our election? Yeah, that was just a day before the election that they were saying that. There's pictures of Democrats across the country saying, no, Donald Trump, you can't hack into our election. There's audio clips, and I wish I had it for you guys, of Hillary Clinton saying that if you disagreed with the election results, if you thought that the election was hacked or influenced, then you were wrong and that you were undemocratic. There are audio clips of Hillary Clinton saying that. And what do we see not only the night of, but the day after the election, continuing all the way to today? We see the left being the ones who are saying, oh no, we already knew that that Russia was hacking into the election. We already knew that this election could be hacked. And Donald Trump is illegitimate. The left realized on November 8th that they had made a grave mistake in nominating Hillary Clinton. And so they scrambled to come up with some excuse. They scrambled to come up with some excuse to make it okay that now they're going to throw baby fits. And this is just one in many different excuses that they came up with. The left just cannot accept, and we're all the way in February. The left still cannot accept the fact that they lost this election. And I really hope that soon they do accept the election. You know, we might not have liked President Obama being elected 2 times, but we didn't riot, we didn't protest, we didn't stall his nomination hearings, we didn't make up fake news to try to get his senior advisors out of the White House. We didn't spread fake news as an excuse as to why we lost the election. We accepted it, because that is what you do in a democracy. When you lose, you accept it. When you lose, you look at your own campaign, you look at your own party, and see, what do we need to change? What do the American people truly want? That's what you do. You don't throw these baby fits that the left has been doing time after time after time. You don't throw these baby fits that grown adults have been throwing for months on end. And another area where they're throwing these baby fits is in regards to Donald Trump's Supreme Court nominee, Judge Neil Gorsuch. But an actual poll is coming out, a Fox News poll, is coming out that Neil Gorsuch would actually have an easier time making it to the Supreme Court if voters had to confirm him rather than U.S. senators. Now, we all know that Donald Trump nominated Gorsuch a few weeks ago to fill Antonin Scalia's seat. And if Gorsuch is actually confirmed by the Senate, it's going to be a razor-thin victory. But in this actual poll, it showed that among voters, he has a 12-point edge over people who do not want him. This new poll, which was just released today, finds that 49% to a 37% margin saying that voters would confirm Gorsuch. That's 14% left undecided. Now, of course, 82% of Republicans would vote to confirm him, compared to just 17% of Democrats. And for independents, a majority of them actually support Trump's nominee at 54%. 57% of men versus 42% of women are in favor of this nominee, but that's still high numbers for women as well. Now, the support for his confirmation is 49%, as I said earlier. This is higher than the 39% that was received by President Obama's nomination of Alina Kagan in May of 2010, and it's just a touch lower than Obama's nomination of Sonia Sotomayor in 2009. And it was only 51% who were behind W. Bush's selection of John Roberts in 2005. Now, the actual confirmation hearings for Gorsuch are expected in March, and as we've discussed on this show, Democrats have threatened quite a fight, and 42% of voters actually endorsed the idea of Senate Democrats doing, quote, everything they can to block any of Trump's nominees that they don't like. Of course, most Democrats agree with that strategy at 75%. 1/3 of independents agree that they should be able to do that, and 10% of Republicans agree with that. So we see that a majority of people actually want this nominee. The 49% now is not a majority of all Americans, but that's because 14% are still undecided. And so this is great odds, and the Democrats are just completely ignoring that. The Democrats in the Senate are completely ignoring the fact that 49% of Americans want this nominee. Democratic pollster Chris Anderson said, quote, Democrats are at the very least giving their elected leaders permission to fight Trump's nominees, while many will be demanding they do anything to slow the administration. And with the sense that blood is in the water after General Flynn's forced resignation, that demand could increase. Now, the poll also asked voters which of the three branches of government they trust the most. At 45%, it is the judicial branch, and the other two trail way behind. At 26% trust in the executive branch, and only 13% trust in the legislative branch. And 10% of Americans do not trust any of the three branches of government. Now, the sentiment towards this hasn't changed much since the early days of Obama. At that time, 43% trusted the court most, to 27% for the president and 15% for Congress. Now, the number picking the judiciary is up 33% from when it was asked in 2005. Quote, the Judiciary General and the Supreme Court particularly are seen as relatively competent and nonpartisan, says Shaw, who was one of the people who did this poll. That makes President Trump's response to the opinions on the district and the appellate judge's rulings on his immigration order a gamble politically. And last week, I believe, I talked about that and how Donald Trump did need to stop calling out the judicial system within America, as it just wasn't very politically smart. But this poll is definitely proof that Gorsuch should be nominated and confirmed. This is proof that Americans want him, that the left is just completely out of their heads in their own reality here by saying that no one wants him, that he is a radical, because I've heard that. They say that he's a radical, conservative, racist bigot who's going to take away everyone's right to gay marriage or right to an abortion, which they continue to spout out time after time. But the fact of the matter is, this is a good nominee from people who are both on the right. They view it that way. People in the middle view it that way. And even some people on the left view him as a good nominee. He is a constitutionalist, which is the perfect replacement for the former Justice Scalia. And I've already given my thoughts on him a few weeks back. But he is definitely one of the best nominees that we've seen in a while in terms of the Supreme Court, and I'm definitely glad that Donald Trump went with him to fill Scalia's spot. All right, I'm going to take one last quick commercial break. Don't go anywhere. This is the Wise Conservative Show.
Hi everybody, Connor Wise here with an exclusive clip from the Wise Conservative Show. Don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. How haven't all of these protesters realized that they are the exact reason why Donald Trump was elected in the first place? How haven't they realized that them being crybabies about every single thing in life is exactly why the American people rose up and voted for Donald Trump? They are the whole reason that they have all this misery currently.
If you got a business, that you didn't build that. Somebody else made that happen.
Get out of here, you idiot. Sorry about that, folks. Jason Veely here, host of the Jason Veely program. I'm a 22-year-old conservative who is fired up and ticked off at the direction the progressive left have taken this country. Join me every weeknight at 7 o'clock as we promote liberty, advance conservative principle, and work to restore the Constitution of the United States. I can get loud and I can get passionate. How can we afford not to when so much is on the line? Tune in to the Jason Veely program, live every weeknight at 7 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time on youthrevolt.org. I'll see you out on the battlefield.
Hi everybody, Connor Wise here with an exclusive clip from the Wise Conservative Show. Don't go anywhere, I'll be right back. And every time that these universities take up this new social change that they're trying to promote, every time they take that up, they are taking away from that education instead. Because now they're focusing on these social changes instead of learning like they should be.
Calling all young conservatives. Have you ever wanted to write for an online publication? What about host your own conservative radio program? Now you can, thanks to youthrevolt.org. Youth Revolt is a conservative media network for young people, the goal of which is to educate our fellow Americans and also to expose the left-wing indoctrination that goes on in classrooms across the country. Become part of a team that is dedicated to taking the country back, one radio program or opinion column at a time. If you're interested, go to youthrevolt.org and click on Join Us on the top of the page. Fill out our brief questionnaire, and one of our representatives will be in touch with you in no time at all. The time to reclaim our future is now. Be a part of something that's bigger than yourself, and join the movement today. Youth Revolt. Speak without fear. Ever wanted to learn the history of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict in less than 10 minutes? Are you looking for the truth about the so-called gender wage gap? Well, my friends, I'll let you in on a little secret. Prager University is a source that I use all the time when preparing for my show, the Jason Veely Program. Dennis Prager and his team have put together a remarkable organization that seeks to explain and spread Americanism through the power of the internet. Their short yet extremely informative videos reach more than 100 million people per year, and they want to reach you as well. Go on YouTube and type in Prager University, or go to prageru.com for all of their latest content. That's Prager, the letter U.com. prageru.com.
Love Trump's hate! Love Trump's hate! Love Trump's hate!
Love trumping hate involves a lot more assault and arson than I expected. The Wise Conservative Show, Wednesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, only on Youth Revolt.
Welcome back to the Wise Conservative Show. Once again, I am your host, Connor Wise. Now, throughout my entire time on this show, we have had many stories discussing liberal indoctrination and just general incompetence throughout the left that have come up. And we've seen many instances of this indoctrination, and once again, it has happened. And this was really extreme this time, actually, and very questionable. Jane Germain said that her son's English teacher at Campania High School within California told the class that she had lost a $100 bet because President Trump was not shot on Inauguration Day. Mrs. Germain tells that the news agency that the teacher's remarks were troubling. Quote, a public school teacher using classroom time to share with students how she lost a bet because the president was not shot on Inauguration Day is beyond reprehensible to me, and I do not see how the school district does not find this troubling as well. And it turns out that this wasn't the first time that she's heard about teachers at this high school making politically charged statements in the classroom. Quote, teachers telling students that Trump hates women, that Fox News is fake news, that it's raining so much in Southern California these days because Donald Trump is president. A teacher telling students that she is estranged from certain family members just because they are conservative, and she says that she could go on and on with more examples. She continues, how is a 15 or 16-year-old supposed to process what this means, especially if their family is conservative, approves of Trump, and watches Fox News? And she felt that this assassination crack was the last straw, and so she filed a complaint with the school district. Quote, "My husband and I feel that our concerns have been completely dismissed by the school and the school district, and they are just hoping that we forget about this and go away. If my son were to say such comments even remotely similar in nature, he most likely would have been escorted out of class. I would have received a phone call, law enforcement notified, and my son would have been suspended or expelled. We do our best to teach our boys to just ignore such comments, but it is deeply frustrating for them and us as well, because they have no choice but to sit there and listen to it." And this is definitely one of the more extreme cases of liberal bias in a classroom, and this is a threat on Donald Trump's life. He is the president of the United States, and a public school teacher was betting that he would be assassinated, was hoping that he would be assassinated so that she could get $100. This is something that should not happen, no matter what side of the political spectrum you are on. We are seeing the left become violent over their loss of the election. They have rioted. They have threatened Donald Trump's life. We saw the same thing with Madonna, where she said that she had thought about blowing up the White House. We have seen this time after time since November 8th, but this is just sad. A public school teacher betting that Trump will be assassinated. You know, in our public schools, they're supposed to be unbiased, unpolitically charged. Unless it's a class that is about politics, such as speech and debate or government. But this is an English class. This teacher shouldn't be bringing politics into it. But we see at all levels of school within America, lower levels, of course, secondary school such as high school, and then even into higher education like college, the liberal indoctrination is rampant. And there's no one questioning it besides for a few on the right. No administration is actually punishing these teachers or professors for any of these instances. We've seen professors time after time saying that anyone who supported Donald Trump is a racist and that they would fail their class. We've seen many other instances of liberals completely silencing conservatives, not only on college campuses but on high school campuses. This is an issue that is rampant across our country. This is an issue that should be talked about much more. And that's why I talk about this so often on my show. Because this issue is one of the most important issues in our country. If this liberal indoctrination continues, we are going to have more uneducated millennials entering the workforce, getting old enough to vote, and voting for those politicians that they know nothing about, but they've heard from their professors or from their teachers that their policies are good, that anyone on the right is racist or homophobic or sexist, etc., etc. These people are essentially being brainwashed, and that is what's happening across this entire country. It doesn't matter whether you're at a public school in California or one in Alabama. We see this liberal indoctrination going on. And this district, this administration, needs to hold this teacher accountable. She openly threatened the President of the United States by doing this. That is a felony. There should be law enforcement involved in this to see if she has any violent plans for the president. There should be law enforcement actually investigating this matter. There should be punishment going on from the district. She should actually be punished for this. But instead, she's going to get a walk away scot-free because our public education is so liberal in this country. She's going to get away with openly threatening the President of the United States. Just like Madonna did. Just like countless other liberals have done since November 8th. And it really just shows their true colors, folks. Because even though we lost the election in 2008 and in 2012, we didn't make bets that President Obama was going to get shot. We didn't openly threaten him. And we definitely didn't have our teachers that are conservative try to indoctrinate the students, saying that Donald Trump hates women, or that Fox News is fake, or that CNN is fake, rather. We didn't actually try to have them indoctrinate anyone, and conservatives don't indoctrinate any of their students across this country. We haven't seen any instances of that. Because the few conservative professors and teachers throughout this country are afraid to speak out. The few conservative students across high schools and colleges are afraid to speak out. Because if we do speak out on campus, we get bombarded with threats, with illogical arguments from the left, not only from fellow students, but also from professors and from teachers. Every day that we don't make this a bigger issue, that we don't speak out about it, the liberal indoctrination spreads within this country. Every day we don't do something about this, the issue gets worse and harder to change. We have to think of a solution to this rampant problem across our country sooner rather than later, or else our entire education system will be essentially destroyed. Because no one will be able to actually hear both sides of the argument. They will only hear the left side. And if anyone truly is conservative in that audience, they will be completely bullied about it. And we see that time after time already. It's already gotten extremely bad, and we must solve this crisis. We must solve it now. These schools need to hold their teachers responsible. These colleges need to hold their professors responsible for comments such as this, for all of the liberal indoctrination that is going on across this country. Alright, that's all for today's episode of The Wise Conservative Show. I'd like to thank you for tuning in. You can find me on youthrevolt.org. Go ahead and search Youth Revolt up on Facebook. And you can find me on Spreaker.com/The Wise Conservative Show. I'm on Instagram at @the_wise_conservative. I'd like to once again thank you all for tuning in. And as always, God bless.